2025 is upon us. A new year, a new WoW, maybe. We know that we got the little chart right laying out when things are going to happen, and the Midnight expansion was on the chart for this year, as well as player housing and other things. So WoW's 2025 is going to be different. All new content, Bellular says. Let's see how the year ahead looks, how everything's going to be, and how excited or not excited we should be for World of Warcraft in 2025.
It's time to talk about World of Warcraft in 2025, and it's going to be quite a year. Player housing is going to be in the game sooner than you think. 25 is going to be pretty damn stacked. This time last year, we were already done with the Dragonflight expansion. War Within was, of course, barely on the horizon. What Blizzard tried to do was save the first half of the year, and they kind of did that, right? They had Plunderstorm. There was Mop Remix. They pulled those out of the back pocket.
Yeah, and Plunderstorm's coming back.
Season 4 happened, and I think we all just kind of forgot that existed. This year, though, it is radically different. They've planned better.
To be fair, Dragonflight Season 4 was better than the War Within Season 1 in terms of Mythic Plus. I'll just throw that out there. I don't know if that's a crazy opinion or not. I don't think so. Dragonflight Season 4 was a much better Mythic Plus season. In terms of rating, of course it wasn't better. There was no new raid. He just went back and did the old shit. But the Mythic Plusing, much better than it is right now.
We know almost everything that we're going to be getting. We know the release cadence of 8-week patches that the team has announced, and if they can keep up that pace, well, we pretty much know when everything is going to happen from right now until the release of the Midnight expansion. But let's not get ahead of ourselves. Let's kick it off with January 14th. It all kicks off on the 14th of January with Plunderstorm, which is WoW's Battle Royale mode that honestly got me completely addicted last time. I know it was a little bit controversial, but seriously, if you give it a chance,
I don't know why Plunderstorm's so damn controversial. Some people really get angry every time this fucking thing comes up, but it's good. It's filler content. It's fun. I think one of the changes they made to it is you'll be able to now queue for it. From in the game. I might be wrong about that. I know, what's it called? The new mobile game you might be able to get in from the end game. But Plunderstorm overall, I think was a fun thing. It was good filler content. It was something to do when you didn't feel like you had much to do. And it also gave you in-game goodies, right? You can get a bunch of transmog mounts and other things. I found Plunderstorm to be a fun event, and I'm definitely going to do it a little bit when it comes back out.
Seriously, if you give it a chance, I think you'll find it really does have quite a lot to it. What's great is that this time round, the renown track is going to be gone. The reward system that people hated won't be a thing. There are more rewards. You can get them more granularly, and they're adding a practice mode to ease people in, instead of, throwing the World of Warcraft audience, who generally are not all PvPers, into a PvP battle royale with zero preparation,
right.
Which, second thoughts, maybe wasn't the best idea. This incarnation of Plunderstorm is going to last till February 18th. Then after that, we're going to have patch 11.1, but not necessarily.
I wonder if he's going to talk about Turbulent Timeways ending on the 25th. Hey, well, probably when the patch 11.1 is going to drop.
After, because if Blizzard are following their 8-week cadence, which they rather shockingly have followed, patch 11.1 will launch February the 11th.
Now, that's fast. That's fast. I'm expecting this thing to hit like February 25th. If it hits February 11th, that's quick. That'd be really quick. They would stick with the 8-week cadence on this. That would be nice. I don't know if it's going to happen because Turbulent Timeways continues on until the 25th. So we'll see.
Poses cute in terms of dates. In terms of how that patch is shaping up, there's quite a lot. Number one, there's Drive. Drive is basically dragon riding, but for the ground. It's even faster, yes, even faster than max speed dragon riding.
Yeah, it's a month away.
With insane drifting potential and even car customization, not just the appearance, but also the actual handling and performance. Then we've got the long-awaited Marksmanship Hunter rework. It looks incredibly promising so far, and there are a ton of huge class changes as well.
Even though Marksmanship right now is like the S tier of DPS. We just looked at these charts. Marksmanship right now is doing really freaking good. Look at this. We were just looking at it. Look at that. They're number one in single target DPS. So a rework of them, I don't know how much better they can get. But everyone's been praising the rework, so maybe it's just going to make them more playable and more fun.
Shamans, you guys seem to be getting a lot of love. Most of the stuff...
Shamans are doing great, too.
Great. And there's a feature we've all been expecting, which is the Warband camp screen customizations. Yeah. You'll be able to unlock different ones in-game. You can assign ones to your different sets of characters. It seems pretty cool, and it does come along with Blizzard making other changes to Warbands as well. Of course, also at Season 2. And Season 2 also gets a new dungeon for the first time in quite a while.
By the way, Warbands, he briefly mentioned, you'll be able to create more than one campsite now. So in stacks of 4, you can group, characters in groups of 4, and have different campsites with different backgrounds and everything. Whichever group you've clicked on, that's the one that shows up on the front.
Sets of characters.
Kind of cool.
Seems pretty cool, and it does come along with
Yeah, they'll continue to
making other
iterate on
changes
it.
to Warbands as well. Of course, also it's Season 2, and Season 2 also gets a new dungeon for the first time in quite a while, and the raid looks incredible. Yes, as a raid, but also how they've changed things. We've got some deterministic rewards. If you remember dinars from the Shadowlands, we're actually getting that back.
Yeah, it's a
There's
good system.
raid-wide renown track, loads of quality of life changes, there's sped up crest drops. Blizzard have made a lot of changes to progression. And overall, I think it's Drive that especially is interesting to me. It's one of those updates that doesn't just make a patch better. What it is potential for something else.
Yep.
To make Drive happen, Blizzard had to make new tech, new systems. A little
Nathaniel.
To destroy.
Thank you for the follow. Welcome to our Scourge. Yeah, Drive. The reason why I'm excited for Drive is I feel like it could be the beginning of dynamic ground mounts. Just like dragon riding was the beginning of dynamic flying mounts beyond just the dragon riding mounts. I feel like Drive, like he said, they had to put in the work to put these systems in. It wouldn't make sense that they went through all this time, went through all this dev, these dev hours and everything else to put in a system that's only going to last for one patch. It'll probably continue beyond that. Eventually, they'll iterate on it and make it something that, you got dynamic lightsabers, dynamic horses. I hope so. I hope we get dynamic ground mounts across the board.
bit like with dragon riding, right? So for now, it's going to be confined to Undermine and Goblin cars, and I really don't think we'll be able to put different hooves on our horses that will make them drift.
Yeah, it sure is.
Better, but I have a feeling
Gotta
this
pause
technology
blurbs, damn
will
it.
be used again in the future. So the likes of that and the Warband screens do actually feel like WoW is building up to the future. And speaking of the future, we've got to move on in the year. Our next
Drifting
date
equine. I don't think so. Before he moves on, I don't think the drifting and stuff like that would be something that would carry over to, say, a Nightsaber or something. I think that'd be kind of like janky to actually see that happen. But I do hope that maybe they introduce some dynamic abilities. I don't know, like a jump and dash or something, or a speed up or something. I don't know. But the systems are now in place basically for dynamic ground mounts. So that's why. In terms of drifting on a Nightsaber, it would just be freaking weird to see that. It would just probably look shitty.
April 8th, and that seems to be when we'll get the Nightfall patch. That's the name of WoW patch 11.1.5, and it's new
Drifting
content.
sludge
It
environment.
sounds spooky. It's called Nightfall, and the next expansion is called Midnight. I have a feeling they'll be connected. But we're not totally in the dark in its content because Blizzard left us with one huge clue, and that is Horrific Visions Revisited. The big
That's right.
question is, how will this game feature return? Could it just be some sort of straight, hey, we fixed the numbers, it's back, or will it be connected to the story? I have to imagine it will be. Will Xalatath usher in a revival of N'Zoth?
Man, I remember COVID every time I see a Horrific Vision, because I was stuck at home working on the verge of getting fired from my job as an associate at a law firm because the law firm was laying everybody off because we weren't making money because everyone had frozen their businesses and everything. I just remember doing Horrific Visions, like constantly. Doing these and getting them done. My boss calling me, asking me what was going on, and I'm telling him I'm doing shit, I'm not doing shit, and it's because he wasn't giving me shit to do, because he was getting ready to fucking fire me. But yeah, still, good times in Horrific Visions. Those things were fun.
Try to repeat what he did? Will it be something worse? I mean, world content with an invading void would be a perfect way to spice up the Khazalgar zones, which do feel, well, rather empty, or perhaps even the old world, and that's not even to mention, say, amping up Xalatath as a villain with another major win under her belt, which they will absolutely want to do.
This
Shabby Merkin, thank you for the follow. Welcome to our Scourge. The one thing I want to say about Horrific Visions is the only annoying thing, and the most annoying thing by far, was getting the key. You guys remember we had to like gather up shit to get a key, or do a quest line to get a key to go into them? It always felt really bad if you fucked up the Horrific Vision early on because you broke the key and you couldn't go back in and do another one unless you went back and regathered the resources needed to go back in. So I hope they don't do this resource bullshit again. I hope that you could just go in and do Horrific Visions whenever you want.
For the Midnight expansion. As for Horrific Visions themselves as a piece of content, it's obviously hard to know if Blizzard means new Horrific Visions based on the design of the two we got during BFA, or if it's the exact same content but revisited with changes. But even if they did
bet
do
on the
that,
latter.
the original Horrific Visions involved characters like Illyria, Tyrallion, and Thrall, who are all going to be relevant in the World Soul Saga. Ultimately, I think it is good news though. Horrific Visions with some smart fixes could be, and I seriously mean this, some of the best current content in World of Warcraft. I believe
Yeah,
that
it
Horrific
could be fun.
Visions, when they came out, had everything. There was awesome story context. There was customizable levels of challenge, almost like I was selecting skulls for my Halo Legendary campaign run back in the day.
Oh, yeah.
Great mob design, a currency grind to, of course, get in, good group scaling. It was a seriously fun
Let's
thing.
be honest, Horrific Visions were probably the beginning of Delves. I mean, they had mini bosses, they had mini polls, all kinds of stuff. It was soloable content. So that was like kind of some of the first solo content that we've seen in the game, really, other than just maybe some challenge modes or something like that. But you could legitimately gear out through Horrific Visions. So they were fun. I enjoyed Horrific Visions. I enjoyed what they brought. Even, what's it called? Corrupted Gear and all that stuff. The end of BFA was an interesting time, but a fun time.
Be it with friends or solo, and I think with distance from Battle for Azeroth's annoying bullshit, well, I actually think people are going to love them. But of course, even if people don't, well, it's Blizzard's patch cadence. Patch 11.1.7 does appear to be scheduled for the 3rd of June 2025. So based on the
Interesting.
roadmap, 11.1.7 doesn't seem to have some sort of new zone like the Siren Isle.
So he's
but-
just doing 8 weeks between patches. That's how he's calculating these dates, and he's going all the way back to 11.1 dropping on February 11th, which I'm still questioning. But if it's later, you basically take all the dates he's giving you right now and you shift them by a week or two.
To be honest, I actually think that's kind of good
So it doesn't
news.
make it that
and I know
far
it
off.
seems strange. I'm saying there's not a massive amount of announced stuff. That's actually good for this patch because we all see what's going on. The increased pace, as much as it means that I can do this video and it's full of content, well, Blizzard have made a lot of unforced errors. The Blackrock Depths raid was far too hard. It was busted difficulty when it came out. Currency balancing's been way off. There was the whole Cersei circlet drama. and
yeah.
content like the Siren Isle not necessarily resonating with people. Let's not have any of that again, please. So maybe Blizzard will announce more features as we get closer. But frankly, that they haven't committed to a whole bunch of stuff I think is actually good. Maybe they can slow down and be able to focus on the quality of their releases. That's not to say that the rumor mill doesn't exist, though. A number of in-game hints and even a little bit of data mining does have many people thinking there will be a surprise Shaman tank spec out.
I hope so. I've been calling for shaman tanks for a long time. To me, it fits the lore, it fits what they do. You know, just crust yourself in some earth. Why wouldn't they be able to be tanks? They already hold shields, too. It's a gimme, and they need to do it because we need more tanks in this game. You create a few more tanking classes, maybe some people will be more willing to try out tanking.
Added to the game, much in the
'Cause
same
right now
way that we got
tanking
the
sucks.
augmentation of Voker during the Dragonflight expansion. That's obviously not confirmed. What is confirmed is new story and quests along with content and system updates. That's what they've committed to, and obviously that's pretty vague. Now after this patch, again, after 8 weeks, there will be a major patch and a new season that, because it's so far out, we really don't know anything about. Now, assuming that they do keep their schedule, patch 11.2 will be July 29th. Some people think we'll be going to the ethereal homeworld of Koresh, and what has definitely added credence to that theory is these
Yeah.
ethereals that have been data mined in
Man, I didn't talk about this because this happened over my break, but this was insane. These ethereal models look freaking amazing. They really do, and playable ethereals would be a huge... Probably ethereals and, what's their name? Tuskars are some of the most called for playable, I want to play them characters in the game. And if I had to pick between Tuskars or ethereals, I would take ethereals any day. My God, these look amazing. These are such good looking models.
11.1, because they don't just look like random mobs, some of them are, but they actually look like proper customizable character models. It's quite something. The other thing, of course, is the root lands and everything going on with Orwena and the Haranir. To me, either sounds good. There could even be a way Blizzard could hit on both of those beats. Feature-wise, I would not expect anything as game-changing as Drive to come here, but Blizzard knows that they need to have something to keep the world content fresh.
Right.
Siren Isle released to crickets. I think they know that by this...
Man, it's crazy to think that we're about to be in season 2, and that would mean we are in our second to last season. There's only going to be 3 seasons. The 4-season expansion thing, that's gone. That was just a layover from trying to, finish out Dragonflight or finish out Shadowlands without having enough content to, stretch it out. We're doing 3 seasons here. That's going to be it. So we're going to hit season 2, and once we're halfway through season 2, we're halfway through the expansion, which is crazy to think about.
world content fresh. Siren Isle released to crickets. I think they know that.
No, that means we're getting our
this
expansion
stage,
quicker,
doing
Moishi.
another slice of the same old world content is just putting the pulp back in the juicer and expecting to get something tasty. And that being said, there are class changes to talk about. So far, we've had an absolutely humongous amount of them, but there are two notable omissions, which are the Demon Hunters and the Rogues. If you guys don't get anything in upcoming minor patches, I would expect patch 11.2 to be where you will get some love. But it's really here that our journey gets interesting. If you're expecting me to skip ahead another 8 weeks, well, tough luck, that's not going to happen. That's because August 19th is Gamescom opening night live. And that event is actually the most likely candidate that we
That's
have
where they'll announce
for the midnight expansion reveal.
Yep.
Obviously, we know the expansion exists, but we have not got a proper reveal. And I 100%
We'll get our cinematic, we'll get our storylines and everything else. We'll probably get the revamped. I'm very excited for revamped Silvermoon. And by the way, I say revamped, I've said it before, it's rebuilt, because they are rebuilding Silvermoon from the ground up. This is already confirmed. It's going to be a Night Elf expansion. To me, I think Silvermoon is going to be the hub city. I don't see them putting all this work into Silvermoon and revamping also the zones around it just for the Horde to only have access to it. So to me, all the elves are coming together. It's a uniting of the elves expansion. Also going to be a cross-faction uniting. Everyone's going to be in Silvermoon. I'm so excited for that because to me, it's one of the most beautiful cities in the game, and has the most unrealized potential for sure. Why is chat so quiet today? I don't know. They're just fucking watching. I'm wondering if BlizzCon will come back, and if they killed it. It will come back, but probably not until the World Soul Saga is done, maybe. So maybe another 2 years before we see a BlizzCon. Or when The Last Titan comes out, considering it's the last expansion. So maybe another year.
We will learn of, say, any of those leaked classes from the surveys, like the Tinker or the Bard, if they will appear, what the Quel'Thalas revamp will look like, how Blizzard will follow up hero talents, and maybe if Drive will make it out of Undermine. But perhaps more importantly, far more information about player housing. And for Blizzard, the impressions that are formed during the first 15 to 30 seconds of that reveal will be some of World of Warcraft's most important in years. Because the War Within was always in production, regardless of the World Soul Saga. The whole World Soul Saga plan only existed after Chris Metzen came back to the company and they revamped some of their planning and their creative direction. That does mean that the War Within fundamentally is something that was birthed out of the old process. It was changed a hell of a lot, but it's Midnight and Last Titan that basically are where Blizzard have had more evergreen planning given all the...
Yeah, and where Metzen's true planning is going to be seen, right? We know that Dragonflight, he had a tiny little bit of influence in terms of turning the story at the very end. The War Within was already created. He just had influence on, okay, we're going to change up the story a little bit to fit better with the Midnight and the Last Titan expansions, which are going to be part of a saga. That was kind of what he did there. In terms of like his actual full-on Metzen effect, we're probably going to see it in Midnight and the Last Titan storytelling.
They have learned right now. But of course, hearing this, you might think, well, Michael, what about BlizzCon? Why would they not talk about Midnight during BlizzCon? Well, here's the thing,
this is not
right?
going to be one. Oh,
First,
he's touching on it,
we actually
Konesia.
don't know if there will be a BlizzCon. We didn't have one last year, and that kind of sucked. Second, World of Warcraft's expansions are actually not coming out at the same pace. Blizzard announced this. They said that the whole World Soul Saga will be done before 2030. And what it basically maths out to, given all of the dates, is 18-month expansions. Blizzard actually has got to hit that to keep up pace. Now, the thing is, if expansions are coming out every 18 months, but BlizzCon happens yearly, well, that essentially guarantees that World of Warcraft expansions will be out of sync with the usual BlizzCon cycle. And that does mean that if Blizzard are looking for a really big date to announce something, well, it's either going to be Gamescom opening night live or perhaps the Game Awards. In this case,
look, you got to remember too, Blizzard is no longer just Activision Blizzard. They're owned by Microsoft. So if they ever wanted to do a BlizzCon, that needs to get approved by their parent company. So, and to see it as like this, profitable venture or whatever it is, I mean, Microsoft has never had a Microsoft Con. They just freaking, release their shit and talk about their shit at Gamescom and stuff like that. So Blizzard's probably going to take on that same iteration where they mostly announce their stuff at other conventions. I do think maybe a BlizzCon could be justified when you announce a saga, right? You want to announce a new saga, okay, call in all the nerds. It's time for the BlizzCon orgies and the weird shit that happens in the hotel rooms to commence. We're going to announce a new saga. And that's probably what happens.
live given when Midnight is almost
Gotta
certainly
have Daddy
going to
Gate's
come
permission,
out.
basically.
And as for a release date for Midnight, if Blizzard continues as is their new normal, Midnight will come out February 10th, 2026, with an early access period starting on February 7th. That is based on the dates that we have seen them
2026.
ship.
So about a year from now. So he thinks it's going to happen about a year from now.
But of course, I've talked about 2026. That is not to say that 2025 is finished,
I think it
because there
could.
will be more content. And what's interesting is the pacing of some of that content even lines up with that February date. So up next is patch 11.2.5. That'll likely come out September 23rd. And we know almost nothing about it short of there being new content and, of course, the 21st anniversary event for World of Warcraft. If BlizzCon is to return, it'll be shortly after this
21st
patch.
anniversary event. Are they just going to do... They're not going to do something like they did for the 20th. Anniversaries in WoW have never really been eventful. They've always just been like, oh, you get a free pet if you log in at this, within this month, right? Because it's the anniversary month. I don't know if they're going to do anniversary events every single time an anniversary hits.
But taking a look at the roadmap, it really does not seem like they planned World of Warcraft around
Too
having
soon,
a
Blizzard,
BlizzCon,
too soon.
which if you think about it, does make a lot of sense. The World of Warcraft development team, while they are pretty damn important, do not get to call the shots on whether BlizzCon exists or not. They cannot tie their plans to an event like that.
Yeah.
Hopefully, of course, it's that Blizzard have just not decided on doing a BlizzCon yet, and not because they're going to skip one. If they do a BlizzCon, what I would expect, though, is a proper deep dive into expansion features. That being said, I actually believe we would be either in alpha or on the cusp of alpha by that stage, but that's when you'll get your proper deep dive and a lot more about housing. Of course, then there will be the War Within's final patch, and that's where things do get rather odd. Take a look at this. The banner turns green, which we all thought obviously meant Legion Remix.
Yeah.
Legion was, of course, the green expansion.
Ian basically confirmed
and
it.
to add fuel to all of that, game director Ian Hazzikostas even dropped a ton of hints about Legion Remix in interviews. It does seem to be a foregone conclusion. And the time also lines up, because if you take a look at all of this and the banner...
I actually think Legion Remix would be more popular than Mists of Pandaria Remix. It will be, because, Legion itself was a more popular expansion, but all the transmog. Legion has a ton of really, really good transmog, and some of it, going back and doing it is, you could still go back and unlock your Legion legendaries and stuff like that, but I think some of it is a bit, maybe not unlockable anymore. I think there are some legendary appearances that you really can't get anymore. So going back and doing those, a lot of people are going to want to do it. And going back and doing a lot of the Legion content in general was very enjoyable. And people are going to want to go back and do that.
Launching in November, which is around where the banner starts to change into green, well, it kind of tells us everything. Mop Remix lasted 3 months, and Mop Remix ended just before the War Within expansion launched. So if you take 3 months from November, you end up in February, which is exactly when we expect
Mage
the
Tower
Midnight
appearance.
expansion to release, meaning that it all does line up. As for Legion Remix, well, I think that's going to be
So
one
February
of the
10th,
most exciting
that's what he
things in quite
thinks.
some time. Legion was one of the peaks of World of Warcraft for very good reason, and I think with modern fixes to the artifact power grind and legendary acquisition, it could actually turn out to be a proper revisit. Mop Remix was great, but I would love to Blizzard just take a second stab at that idea, and instead of just recycling the same gems and power scaling, using the fact that Legion was inherently, well, designed in a way that fits the Remix format. There's a lot they could do there. But of
It really
course,
was.
there is the final patch, 11.2.7. Based on all of our dates, that should be coming out November the 18th. And taking a look at the roadmap, you can
That's a
see
good
that
time.
no new...
Blizzard likes to release stuff that mid to early November to carry us through the holiday. You don't want to drop new shit during the holiday. You'll have the Winter Veil event still happen at that time, but that's about it. Because people take time off of work and stuff, so they don't have all their employees there. They don't want to drop a brand new patch and brand new content in December. So usually that mid-November time is correct. So this does line up pretty well.
Content listing is there. It's just the usual story, quests, and updates. Now, obviously, that doesn't mean that they're not working on something more, right? That's not that confirmed. It's probably them just keeping
player
their hand
housing
hidden for as long as they need to. But of course, when all of that's going on, we'll be farming up artifact power and our legendaries, so we'll probably get by. Now, taking a look at the roadmap, that leaves us with 2 things. One on the roadmap and one that is completely missing. So, The first thing is what's missing, and that is Season 4. And I think that's something we can actually rejoice for. Season 4 is gone. If Blizzard
Yeah,
deserves
they're not
any
gonna do
praise,
it.
it's for learning when an experiment failed. Season 4 of Shadowlands was Blizzard having a quick answer to, frankly, just not having enough content and being up shit creek without a paddle.
Right.
And for that expansion, it worked. They tried to do a repeat of it in Dragonflight, but the community was extremely vocal about not wanting more. People almost said, we would rather just have a season off instead of a halfway house. Can we just go play Plunderstorm and Mop Remix, please?
Right.
That actually seems to have worked. And yeah, the two of those were way better ways to spend our time than just doing the same raids again and getting bored and burnt out.
Yeah.
That's why when we
I
look
agree.
at this roadmap, it's interesting that there is no Season 4. It seems that Blizzard have learned, and that means they can focus their resources more on what actually matters.
And there's also no time for a Season 4. They said they want to drop these expansions quicker than the 2-year, drop rate. So it's you can't fit 4 seasons in an 18-month expansion. It's just not going to work out the same way.
That's what's not in the roadmap. Then there's what's on the roadmap, which, is this. This icon raised a lot of eyebrows when it showed up, but then Blizzard changed it to this new icon, which is a hell of a lot more
Right.
obvious. It's player housing. It's there on the roadmap, and,
I was blown away by the story of that freaking first icon. I had no idea that shit was even a thing. Wasn't it about like child trafficking or something? It was some crazy shit. That's why Blizzard changed it.
it's before Midnight actually comes out. So there's a few theories. One is just it'll be there a bit earlier. Maybe, yes, in 2025. I do have another theory. That part of the roadmap is actually January 2026. That would be basically the pre-patch for the Midnight expansion, and I think that pre-patch would bring in player housing.
Imagine that.
Trusting that Blizzard's 8-week schedule holds, and it has held for a few patches now, even when an argument.
Imagine starting 2026, you come back from your, vacation or whatever, or your holiday break, and you got pre-patch for Midnight. How exciting would that be? Oh my god.
Shouldn't have. Blizzard will be releasing something on January 13th. That is how the dates line up. With patch 11.2.7 as our final War Within patch, it must be 12.0. Remember, 12.0 is not the launch of Midnight proper, it is the pre-patch. It is game version 12.0, and that pre-patch is just about always 1 month before the expansion comes out.
Right.
Blizzard said that player housing is a Midnight feature that's coming in Midnight, but Blizzard are, of course, not dumb enough to make it a Midnight-only thing. The Blizzard that made
It'll be
Warlords
a
of
pre-patch
Draenor or
thing.
Legion probably would have made it a Midnight-only feature, that somehow we all just get a ranch and Quel'Thalas. But modern Blizzard knows that its game features have to be evergreen. This will be an Azeroth thing, not a Midnight thing.
Oh, yeah.
That means that it could open up on the pre-patch and actually solve the problem of the pre-patch being boring, because we'd all just be able to grind up cool new things.
Yeah, I mean, you know for a fact people are going to spend hours customizing these things, because not only are you going to be able to get new shit, I'm sure, throughout the expansion to customize your new home, but a lot of the stuff we already did based on these images right here. They're gonna retroactively be available to use in our house. I mean, Nixia's head's right there. These are things that we've had before. This is related to the freaking Arcane, not Arcane game. What the hell is it called? Warcraft Rumble game, right? When you got those little trophies in the game. So a lot of these things are old. This is from freaking BC. This shield's for Birdie Crusade. So all this stuff is old. You got the Brewfest stuff right here. You'll be able to customize this. People are just going to log in on pre-patch and just spend hours customizing their homes. Whether you're a home person or not, you've been wanting this or not, you're going to do it.
And for Blizzard, let's be real, they would probably still lock it behind access to the Midnight expansion, and in doing this, would get a massive stack of pre-order money.
I was going to say, will they lock it behind pre-orders? That'd be interesting. They usually do, right? Like Demon Hunter, even when that was a thing that came out early in the pre-patch, usually you got to pre-order the expansion. So could player housing be a really good way for them to lock in a ton of pre-orders? Yeah, probably.
And so what this actually means for World of Warcraft is honestly huge. It means no content drought in the way that we used to have them. That Season 4 buffer
Yeah,
time
I
has
agree,
pretty
Penchi.
much just been...
Pre-patch for the War Within did suck. It was really freaking... What was it? The Radiant Echo? Was it the Memories of Azeroth event? Yeah, that thing sucked. That was a really shitty pre-patch. Legion's pre-patch was the best one that I remember in a long time. The Legion Invasions, pre-patch for Wrath of the Lich King was fun with the Scourge event and stuff like that. We'll see what they do with Midnight, but yeah, the War Within was crap.
deleted, and instead it's faster expansions. Now, in a way, that does mean that we will be ponying up more cash over time, but the thing is, I'm broadly happy to pay a bit more money if
Yeah,
I'm
I'll
getting
pay
a bit
for a
more
new
content.
expansion
I'm
if
not
it's
having
quicker, I don't care.
routine, massive content droughts. So even though it's not an expansion launch year, 2025 actually looks big. We got the return of Plunderstorm, 6 patches of content. We have a whole ton of new game features.
Yeah, boy, I did not have an erection, okay? I was not aroused by the pre-patch. What happened was I enjoyed some of the storylines, the funny stuff, the Murloc things, but it was very much like a one day. Like, you did it for one day, and then you were like, all right, am I just going to keep doing this? What else is there to do? That's why I went and did the unicorn thing. You guys remember, like, the Nightmare Unicorn quest line and all that shit? I went and started chasing rare mounts in the game because I was like, I'm not going to do this pre-patch thing for the next month. This thing sucks.
Of which appear to be evergreen and
Get partner
Legion
yet, Sam?
remix, with all of that culminating pretty much in player housing, which could be one of World of Warcraft's truly massive, game-changing features that could solve some of its motivational problems for a long time. I don't know about you, but I'm not really that excited about a new transmog or a new mount because I have been there and I have done that for a very long time indeed.
True.
Now, if you're interested in Midnight, well, check out this video next. You'll get all the lore, all the reasons, all the new stuff that we have learnt since it was announced. I think you'll enjoy it a lot.
It's good. I think his dates are probably correct, if not off, maybe by a week or two. I'm betting, yeah, we get the expansion, Midnight expansion, early 2026. We're going to get pre-patch and everything else, and the final patch for the War Within, probably in November. That's probably all correct. Whether or not he's right, we'll know a lot about whether or not he's right in all this in about a month and a weekish, because whenever 11.1 drops, that's going to be kind of a lead-off point, an indication of when everything else is going to hit, right? Because you can start to use that date to figure things out. So we'll see. I thought February 25th was going to be the date that we get 11.1. He thinks it's February 11th, which is 2 weeks sooner. We'll have to see. But overall, a nice video and always fun to speculate on this stuff.